Pogo News Time 641. Executives from Facebook, Google, and Twitter told a U.S. House panel today the social media companies are not discriminating against content for political reasons. Some conservative Republicans have criticized them for what they claim are politically motivated practices in removing some content, a charge the companies have rejected. Pogo's Cliff Albert talked to Dr. Stephen Andrus, who teaches at the Fowler College of Business and the Graduate Program in Homeland Security at San Diego State, about the role of the social media sites.
Well, it is quite interesting because they are private companies and their ultimate goal is to turn a profit. So the contention that they are intentionally banning conservative viewpoints is contrary to profit-seeking motivations. You wouldn't close out half of your customers. That being said, the idea of additional scrutiny in a private company, they're going to be hard-pressed to want to give up their secret sauce of how the algorithm displays or prioritizes other content. It's interesting to bring this up. I don't know if it rises to the level of Congress.
Former President Obama today, in fact, speaking of South Africa, made some remarks about how social media has become a platform that once, as he put it, was to bring people together. Now, much of it is filled with hate and conspiracy theories. Do you think that Congress is looking and has a concern in that area?
I think they do have a concern. I think it's changed mainly in the monetization. So at the beginning, it was all about connecting with your friends, and at the very beginning, it was just about looking at freshmen in the dorm at Harvard. But once the monetization goes in there and different traditional publishers that were seeing their numbers decline in print media and on online websites found that they can publish their articles on Facebook and try to get some more clicks through there, the money got in and a little bit corrupted and perverted the incentives. With that in mind, I can see why someone that was getting a certain amount of thousands of dollars a month through Facebook because of their referrals is now seeing a decline, would immediately say, oh, they're trying to silence me and they're trying to take away my money. When it could be some of those clicks were actually fraudulent accounts or just manufactured clicks. You could go on the dark web and buy a whole bunch of Twitter followers, and that's why we've seen in recent weeks Twitter has taken a big stand, and they said they took down 70 million accounts that were fake. That hit a lot of high-profile people's follower counts, including the president, as well as the former President Obama and even Oprah. Millions of followers were removed because they were fake. Now, it doesn't mean that those people knew that those followers were fake, but that's part of the economy of social media.
When they look at this kind of pressure they get by some members of Congress, what do you think that they're thinking about doing? Or where do you think this is headed?
It's hard to see where it's headed. The difficult part is, as a platform, Facebook is not intentionally trying to give you a balanced diet of all the viewpoints. It's going to give you stuff that it thinks that you're going to like, which some have said is kind of an echo chamber effect. We interact more with statements that we agree with than statements we don't agree with. That's why famously Facebook doesn't really have a dislike button. They're in the business of giving you information that you already agree with. So that being said, it's a little silly to think that this is now our platform for discourse as citizens, and it should be a neutral platform. It should be a profit-making platform. And if Facebook can make more money by showing you things that it thinks you already agree with, it's going to go ahead and do that. Congress might say, well, it should be a public utility because it should be completely neutral. That's not really a profit-generating enterprise there.
And, of course, Republicans and conservatives in Congress, including some of this hearing today, expressed concerns about a favoritism toward more liberal policies as opposed to conservative voices. So do you see, when it comes to Congress, and this has been discussed in recent years, what kind of legislation that might come out of all this concern? Do you see Congress doing something?
Boy, that'd be very difficult to write legislation that doesn't somehow trample over free speech to ask these private companies to monitor the posts of their users changes the dynamic of social media. I'm not sure what could be done. There was a suggestion by some representatives today that they revisit Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, which allows these online publishers to not be responsible for the content that their users post. Well, if you get rid of that, there's not going to be a YouTube. There's not going to be any sort of social media platform because nobody wants to take responsibility for something that one of their users might post. As a compromise, what these publishers have done is have said, if you report it, we will take a look at it. Now, that's going to be an imperfect process because humans are involved in that, and typically this is farmed out to contractors, thousands and thousands of contractors, and someone in those contractors might have a personal bias, and even though they shouldn't, maybe they'll say, oh, you know what, I don't like this speech, I'm gonna mark it as dangerous. And then there's an appeals process, and we find out, oh, you know what, they shouldn't have marked it as that. So I think a lot of this might be blowing things up to a proportion where this isn't a network television station that's broadcasting these opinions. It's a Facebook post that you might not even see unless the algorithm thinks that you're going to want to see it.
That's Dr. Stephen Andrus from San Diego State. We've got more news, including money